Morning, today's video is all about this old beast. This is my very, very old bandsaw. It's had a bit of a hard life. I actually found this on the side of the road. It wasn't in this sort of condition, it wasn't running. The motor was needed a bit of work, let's just say that. Since I've had it, I've replaced the rubber bands on the wheels twice. That's what the cutting blade actually runs around. It sort of cushions it. So the rubber belts have been replaced several times now, and it's probably due for another one because they're perished. It's still running, but my main problem now is the base that it's actually on, I find, is a little bit too tall. I would like to lower it down, and it's too wide, I think, for where it sits in a little sort of spot around the corner behind the camera, which is a bit difficult to get it out. Every time I've got to move everything to get it out, and then move and to put it back, and then put everything back in front of it. So I'm going to try and reduce its footprint today. We're going to look at whether I can make a smaller stand, and in the process lower it down too. And this, I'm also doing this, I'm going to have a triangular, I think, base foot rather than a four-wheeled base. So I'm going to get started. We're going to go and have a bit of a peek through some of my stockpile of wheels and see what we can come up with, see what steel I've got and what we can scrounge together. The current base that it's sitting on is actually welded to a square frame. I'm going to grind the welds off and get it off that frame, and it'll be shuffled across onto the new frame, which hopefully will be lower. So we'll get around to that one. That's if I weld the frame underneath it. I'm sort of contemplating maybe not doing that. I don't know just yet. Anyway, we'll get to that in a second, see how we go. Okay, so I'm going to pause the camera, shuffle through a few things, find a few wheels, and I'll take you along with me. Okay, let's go. Okay, so rummage through my steel pile. Unfortunately, I got a little busy, forgot to hit record. This is the new base for the bandsaw. I've ground the welds off that was holding the bandsaw, which is sitting on, bolted on a box, which is welded to the last trolley. So this one's just going to drop inside of it, and it should drop it quite a bit lower because it's actually going to be sitting about 3/4 the way through the wheel, or halfway through the wheel. So this should actually drop it down a lot lower. Now this is going to be a bit of fun because I just don't want to get myself caught on that audio cable. I'm going to have to manhandle it off its present trolley, and I'll show you that actually. I'll bring you in a little bit closer. You're now on wheels, by the way, so you can roll around the room, which makes my life just a little bit easier. So we don't have what is it called? What is it called? The IBIS set on at the moment. So I'm just going to tilt you down so you can actually see creaking, groaning. The old base. Now that's the old base, and I'll see if I can get down there without going on that. So this is the old base. It was welded in the various spots. I've ground all those off. I've shuffled it around. It is moving. I did that before lunch. I did stop for lunch in between. That's why I may be looking dressed a little differently. I'm going to now try and shuffle it onto this one. I may have to put something underneath the rear wheels so it doesn't try and scoot out from underneath you whilst I'm doing this. I am going to move the camera out of the way in case something drastically does happen, and hopefully it doesn't, but I'm going to pause the camera now, and I'm going to give this a little bit of a try and see if I can get it over there. Then I've got a few other little tweaks I've got to do to this old bandsaw. Bearing in mind, this is one I found on the side of the road in Australia. It was this, and I think there was something else there. I can't remember whether it was a table saw or whether it was a thickness or a planer or something like that. I raced home to get the trailer. By the time I'd come back, which was less than half an hour, the thickness was already gone and the bandsaw was still sitting there. So the bandsaw went in the trailer, and that's how I got this. So, and that wasn't far from home, 15 minutes from home. Anyway, I'm going to pause the camera, I'm going to shuffle it over, and I will show you sitting in its new caddy, trolley, whatever you want to call it. Let's go. As you might be able to see, it is actually sitting on the new trolley, and yes, you're not mistaken, you can see two sets of swivel wheels at this end. I tried going with one in the middle, but I found it was somewhat unstable. It was threatening that if you gave it a bit of a shove or got caught on something, it would topple over. I also noticed too that it wasn't quite level, so what I've ended up doing is putting some outriggers on and putting some wheels on that. And I've levelled it up whilst I've been at it. It looks a bit of a hodgepodge, but I'm really not caring that much. It's just so I can use the bandsaw now that I've got a few projects coming up that I want to actually cut some wood. I'm going to try making some toys, possibly some cars, something rather like that. I just want to have a bit of a play and see. I did something like that this morning, just sort of playing with it just to see how it would look, etc., and how it cuts, to see whether the old saw still worked quite well and all that sort of stuff, and it does reasonably well. What I have noticed that the pulleys aren't in alignment, and that's what I'm trying to fix at the moment. When I've looked down from this one to the motor, they are not in alignment, and yes, it is rocking, but I'm going to put a wedge underneath that which will fix that problem. I'm even thinking about turning it around in the trolley at the moment, so we'll see about that. The wheels itself don't seem to be moving, it's just the trolley it's moving, so I might have to put a wedge underneath it to level it up. But as I say, I'm also going to possibly swing the thing around so the motor's over these wheels here, so that's why I haven't gone any further with it. Anyway, I'm going to get on with it and see if I can fix this pulley misalignment, and we're going to go from there, and I'll give you a run a little later and show you what it all works like. Right, so all the welding's done. She's sitting in her new cradle, stand, whatever you want to call it. The old girl is now going a little bit better. I've moved the power switch from down below to just to the left of it on the back here. I've tightened up the pulleys. The pulleys were quite loose and they were rattling around, making quite a bit of noise. I will actually need to get a pair of headphones, which are right behind me. And we're going to give her a quick test run. You can see the old girl. Now this is, I think, a 1960s, 50s or 60s bandsaw, single phase. As I say, it's made by Woodfast, quite old nowadays. Picked it up off the side of the road, as I said earlier. And I'm just going to run through and just cut a little piece of wood. We'll make a few cuts and see how she goes. I will actually drop this down a little bit before I get going. Don't need to have it up too high, the guide. And here we go. Yeah. So there you go, a couple of pieces there, all cut off. Nice cut, nice finish. Not bad for such an old machine, really is nice. So now I can have a bit of fun doing some woodworking. So it's been sitting in my corner there. It came up from the other house we had down in Melbourne. We're now out in the country, and it's travelled around, I don't know, for the last 20, 25 years with us. Been from one place to another. It hasn't done a lot of work here with me, but I suspect that whoever had it before me had used it for quite a bit, because they even cut the guard so they could get a little bit extra width out of it, poor thing. But she's a good solid old machine, and now that she's on a smaller, lighter, narrower trolley, I can now get it in and out a lot easier when I want to do some woodworking. In fact, at the rate it's going, she's going to get a bit of a sand and an oil on the top here. I'm going to make a guard to cover up the V-belt at the back, and then I think she's all ready to go, be put into full service. Okay, I'll see you on the next video. Bye for now.